The story came full circle to me really at the end of it. I mean, I'm a product of public school through and through, and have always prized that opportunity that I received. But there was one of my colleagues, actually John Hale, since you guys had John on. John had read the book in an early draft, and John said, "Well, Derek, you need to talk about yourself." And I said, "No, no, John, you don't talk about yourself in these sorts of books." But he said, "Well, I think there's something important to sort of say there." I'm not convinced that John was right overall, but for some of my sort of professional experiences, I think that's what he wanted me to talk about. But I really began to reflect upon my own childhood. And in that introduction, I said, and it really wasn't until I wrote the book that I sat down and counted the number of different homes that I lived in over the course of the first 7, 8 years of my education. And it was actually, it was kind of a little bit troubling to me. I never sort of thought of myself as experiencing sort of unsteady housing, or I certainly had, sort of unsteady family relationships, I suppose. But in any event, it really was the public schools. It were the public schools that created this sort of anchor for me. And as I said there, I had public school teachers who wanted more for me than I wanted for myself, or more than I can imagine for myself. And so that's my experience right in the 80s, primarily, early 90s. But what I also point out is the reason why those teachers were there was because people who preceded me on this earth by more than a century had decided the state of Tennessee was constitutionally obligated to make sure that every child in the state of Tennessee had access to public education. So it wasn't just the good graces of the teachers of Clinton, Tennessee, but rather the good graces of people that had preceded them and understood what public education would mean for the future of that state, and of course, North Carolina as well. And what I say towards the end of that introduction is that public education is the only inheritance that many children in this country could ever hope to get. That's what you get from America. You get public education. Poor, rich, and if you're poor, that's the only one you will ever receive, right? And so I sort of thought of it as my obligation, having received my inheritance, to try my best to contribute to ensuring the next generation receives its inheritance as well. And it is certainly in a tenuous position, and growing increasingly in a tenuous position in recent years.